When you think of the word mortician, what comes to mind? I'm a little embarrassed to say that for me, it is Morticia from the Addams family. Yes, guilty. That's the first image that pops up in my mind when I hear the word mortician. I mean, how could you not, though? Like, she's gorgeous and she's just a dream come true with the long black hair and the way she floats from room to room as if she's in between two worlds. Her affinity for death and dying, her low alto voice. Well, our guest today puts a new spin on the word mortician, bringing this image into a modern sensibility. Melissa Meadow is an educator, a funeral concierge, a consumer advocate, a death doula, a green funeral expert, a podcaster, and an owner of a beautiful grief therapy dog named Kermit. Oh my gosh, I want to meet him. Talk about a multi-hyphenate, right? Well, I'm excited to meet her. I'm excited for you all to meet her and to learn all that she has to teach us about a new approach to the world of death care. Welcome to Before You Go, the official podcast of Abode Contemplative Care for the Dying. At Abode, our mission is that we live in a world where death is not feared, and we live fully until we die. And we'd like to make that happen before we go. I'm Natalie Buster at Abode in San Antonio, Texas. Welcome to Before You Go. Hello, Melissa. Welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Oh my goodness, it's such a pleasure. I have been so enjoying your Instagram posts and all of the wisdom that you're able to encapsulate in that platform. How long have you been doing the modern mortician?
Well, I think the social media Modern Mortician kicked off in about 2015 and just grew from there.
Amazing, amazing. You know, when I described you during the intro, there are a lot of hyphenates there. You wear many hats. And I wonder if you could tell our listeners in your own words how you would describe yourself and the work that you do.
Um, that's a loaded question these days. I'm really just a funeral consumer advocate and educator. That's what I've evolved into, and that is my passion. Letting people know what's accessible, what's affordable, what's legal, moral, ethical. We can get it done, and I can help them get it.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And I think that is such a great thing to offer because I know when I started to first do this work, I thought of funerals as having two options. You either were buried and embalmed in a wooden casket, or you were cremated. And now that I'm in this world of death care and death education, there's so many more options. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about the types of funerals that you see are most common for the people that you work with? What do people choose these days?
Well, that is also a loaded question. So, as an educator and the social media sphere that I work around, the questions and the feedback and stuff that I'm getting is there's a huge interest in natural or green burial. There is also great curiosity about water cremation. Um, but what I see when I have the last 5 years that I've been in front of families face to face as a funeral director, what I was seeing was it was coming down to what I call the 3 C's, which is cost, culture, and convenience.
Mm-hmm.
People, and obviously this 5 year sphere includes COVID, and it was just about it. People were frazzled. So that's what it came down to was the 3 C's. But like I said, in the social media sphere, I'm getting a lot of interest in green burial.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's something that we really talk a lot about on this podcast too. One of our big supporters, Sunny Markham, she has a beautiful green burial site. Do you know Sunny?
I love Sunny. Sunny
Who
is one
doesn't
of
love
my
Sunny?
mentors. Her and Christabel, I have loved them for a long time. Ever since
Yeah.
that park has gotten going, like, big fan of theirs. They're doing great
Yeah.
things.
They really are. And she was on our podcast last season and talked a lot about green burials and
Mhm.
this this movement. Like it used to be how people were buried. I
Yeah.
mean, this is, as old as people are in general.
Mhm.
And then we kind of moved away from it with embalming and cremation and different types of funeral options. And now there's a real drawback to it. Why do you think people are starting to turn towards more green options when it comes to funeral decisions?
I think it's definitely come from the education that that is even an option, because culturally we've been raised on one specific thing. And then for me personally, it was 6 Feet Under on HBO that showed me that green burial was a thing, and I was immediately sold. And I started like trying to grab as much information as I could about it. And I feel like that's what the general public wants to know. They don't want to be sold to, they don't want to be told what to do, and they want something that aligns with their values. And ta-da!
Oh my gosh, that's perfectly said. You're so right. And I think especially with the generation that we're seeing that really uses social media, they're kind of suspect about, or they grieve a lot of the old ways or the ways that maybe their grandparents or great grandparents did things with suspicion. And they want something that's truly authentic and, like you said, aligns with their beliefs and their personal code of ethics.
Mhm.
I always am curious with my guests, have you always wanted to do this kind of work?
Well, I guess there was kind of a leaning toward care, a death care early on. I was usually the one that was involved in the burial of family pets. Not that there were very many, but like my own adult mother called her teenage daughter in high school to pick up the cat from the vet and take it to the farm to bury it. So it kind of had just evolved from that. When initially I went into death care because of the science and the arts involved in restoring somebody that was sick and frail and didn't look like themselves and making them look 20 years younger, side profile in a casket, snatched, and just amazing. Like they could get up and walk out of the room. However, as I was in the career and doing it and putting pieces together, like the good little ADHD girl that I am, I started seeing the way people were reacting to different things, who had more hands on, how they were progressing in the healing process. So,
And here you are today.
yeah.
I love that you mentioned that, and you kind of alluded a little bit to the artistry of after death care. There is this artistry to returning to nature too. And I think, whenever I think of understanding my mortality and understanding the mortality of people around me, I really turn to nature. And with nature, within nature, there's a lot of contemplation and the contemplative arts. How does nature, how do the contemplative arts help you or guide you in the work that you do today?
That is a solid question.
Thanks.
So I've been utilizing the contemplative arts in the photography or the videography that I take of green burials or mock green burials or burials at sea that are happening, different angles and ways to look at things for a viewer that's never experienced it before. That's actually something that I found difficult to try to portray to other people that want to get shots and stuff like this. It really is in presentation to help people understand better. And then when it comes to creating content for social media, putting forth a personality that may not necessarily be who I feel like I am on the inside, because showgirl Melissa is completely different from introvert PTSD, oh, girl Melissa. We put on a face sometimes, and we grow under that. And so there's a lot of that in the arts. The setting of a grave,
Mhm.
or setting up for even the simplest things like setting casket sprays, flowers, just anything, you want to think ahead of how is somebody else, how am I looking at what's going on through other people's lenses. And I definitely did that when I would go on, like, to pick the body up from the place of death. You're paying attention to everything going on. It's like a dance. You don't want it to be uncomfortable. You want it to be smooth and relaxed. And that's kind of how it is all folded in. Does that make sense?
It totally does. I love that image too of it being a dance. And like a dance, you set the stage, you create the scenery, the
Mm-hmm.
flowers are arranged just so. And then with your photography, you capture that angle that really captures people's attention. And I would imagine, and maybe you can share with me if you agree, that this helps people ultimately confront and maybe even befriend their own mortality.
Yes.
Because I think, I kind of joked around in the intro that, when I think of the word mortician, I think of the Addams family, and, it's very
I could do
theatrical, right?
that.
But it's a very specific way. And you have the long black hair. I love it. Um, yes, yes. But that it's a very specific image. And I think that people like you and the people who do this kind of work and return to nature, return to the land, can capture the imagination of people who are looking for something different. And I think you can use all of your creative skills to both create that experience for people. I can imagine it's a little bit like designing a wedding reception in a way. It's just
So
a
much.
different part of your life, but then
Yeah.
also helping people be with the idea that one day we all will die.
Correct.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Have you noticed this changing the way that people think about death, or even the way that they talk about death and dying? Maybe on your social media channel, engaging with people who consume your content, or the people that you interact with as a consumer advocate, funeral concierge.
Goodness, over the years, when I tell people what I do, they really open up. Um, Recently, Facebook has been wanting me to push content on there to reach their audiences because I don't pay attention to Facebook. So the conversations that are happening in those comment sections are really interesting. First, I'll have somebody say something absolutely negative, take a deep breath, and respond as if I'm talking to a fifth grader. I'm sorry if anybody's hearing this now and I responded to you this way. This is for my mental health, okay? I just respond like I'm talking to a fifth grader, just very plain, very polite. And to see conversations flip from where they were like, ew, gross, to, oh, I get it, totally cool, is like, it's shocking for me. Because again, I've been on social media since 2015, 2016, and again was one of the first influencers, I guess they call it educators, on Instagram, besides the big name Caitlin Doty and Caleb Wild. But I was one of those top 5, and the hate that you get from your own colleagues because they don't want you talking about this stuff because they have kept it behind smoke and mirrors for so long. This new generation of funeral professional that's coming onto the scene, they are on TikTok. They are talking about what's going on and they want to know the alternative options to better educate their families. So,
I love it though. I mean,
sorry.
it's time to bring it out from behind the curtain, I mean,
Absolutely.
the one thing we know for sure is that we will all die.
Mhm.
And why has it been up to this point such a taboo subject to talk about?
Correct.
We need people like you and our other death influencers to bring this subject to the forefront of people's minds, and on a practical level too. I mean, it's important to get your affairs in order, make your final wishes known, let
Yeah.
people in your life know that you love them or that you forgive them. And I'm curious, you also are a death doula, which I am too. Have you seen the ideals of being a death doula change the landscape of the funeral industry?
Oh, funeral professionals are scared.
I'm sure.
Um, And they have been, like, I remember 10, 7, 8 years ago, I don't know, having an interview with somebody saying, do you think that funeral directors need to be ready for death doulas? Absolutely. I think these are people that are going to bring us clients to care for, and we need a relationship. And here we are, where there are so many death doulas. I'm not saying they're everywhere, but it's a growing movement. I'm seeing so many groups, like so many different educators that are putting these programs out. And I think it's great because on the back end, you are empowering every little person that's going to go out and empower their network.
Mm-hmm.
So
Oh,
I think it's
yeah.
great.
It's exciting. I love the use of the word empower, because that's what it is at the end of the day. Like, instead of just doing what's always been done, not talking about it, making it a taboo subject, here we're putting it out. We're loud about it. We're asking questions. We're questioning different processes and procedures that have always been done. And
Yeah,
I think that's really exciting for me.
me too.
Yeah.
See where it's gone from
Yeah.
where it was is just so relieving.
So relieving. So I wonder if I would love to meet your grief therapy dog, Kermit. I don't know if he's around.
Come here.
Oh, no, is it? Oh my goodness, there's Kermit.
Say
Oh,
hi.
what a lovely. Oh my goodness. What kind of dog is Kermit?
Border Collie Aussie mix.
Oh my goodness.
You went down?
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to see him. So I'm sure that the work that you do individually and also with Kermit has helped a lot of people with the anticipatory grief when they're dealing with people that they love at the end of life, or maybe their own journey towards the end of life.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if you can walk me through, how Kermit, how you have been helpful with people at this stage in their journey.
One of uh, one of the instances that comes to mind is back. We're currently living in Washington, but back when we lived in Austin, Texas, a young lady that was losing her mother to cancer reached out to me on social media and said, "I've been following you for some time. My mother is dying. I'd like to talk to you about taking care of her, but I want to know, will Kermit come to the house when she dies?" And I was like, "Do you want Kermit to come to the house when she dies?" She goes, "That's going to be a make or break situation." And so Kermit was there the night that her mother passed away. Kermit was with me on all of my removals, 100%. It used to be where nursing homes would know, and he would stay at the nurse's station while I was doing business and such. But he came into the home and he sat next to her on the couch, and she did what I'm doing right now, stroked his fur and talked to him, communicated with us through the door to her mother's bedroom as we were preparing her mother for transport. And we've stayed in touch ever since. And she has continually told me and other people how much Kermit helped her. So, hi, Michelle.
Yeah. Oh, what a beautiful story. I
Thanks.
So I have a little Xoloitzcuintli dog,
Uh-huh.
which I don't know if you know anything about that breed, but that is the original death doula dog. It's the
Yeah.
same dog that's in the movie Coco. And
Yeah.
it's like how this breed is understood is that they are able to move between both worlds,
Mm-hmm.
and that they are here to usher our souls to the afterlife. And so
Uh,
I always joke that Audrey is my dog's name, that she's just waiting to do her very important job. And she's very patient. And it's not
yeah.
yet, Audrey. You don't need to do
Yeah.
your very important job quite yet.
Right.
But there's something really magical about the energy of a dog or a therapy animal that can
Mm-hmm.
help people through some of these scary conversations, these scary parts of life.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, how did you meet Kermit? How did Kermit come to get this very important job?
Well, that's a good one too. I was in a relationship with somebody who had a dog, and I knew the relationship was on its way out. And so I was like, my cat had passed away after having her for 18 years. And so I was on Pet Finder one night, and I saw this dual-eyed dog, blue and brown eyes, and I was like, that's my guy. And the next morning, I drove 2 hours to the shelter in Waco from Austin to Fuzzy Friends Waco. And I met my boy, and he was just like this. And his brother, who was brown and white, was all over the room. And I just scooped Kermit into my lap and gave them my information to put me in contact with whoever adopted the brother, which we have stayed in contact. And the rest is history. I mean, he immediately was immersed in death care. He went to a visitation that night at the funeral home because I had to work. So
And he just fell right into his role, like
he
no
sure did.
question.
He was the first certified therapy dog in funeral care for the entire state of Texas in 2016. And he worked through Austin Dog Alliance, which I think they've changed their name now, but we worked through them for a while. But yeah, he was the first. So anytime you go to a funeral home in Texas and there's a dog, he inspired them.
Kermit's the prototype.
Yeah. Other dogs in other funeral homes inspired us. So
Yeah.
we're just passing it along.
Oh, see, and I don't think that people know about all of these things. And so that's why I'm so glad you exist and your social media platform exists, and the Modern Mortician exists, because I think people get stuck in this very binary way of thinking about death care and after death care. And to know that there are therapy animals, there are people like you who can really advocate for your clients so that they can get what they want at the end of their life. And then using all the goodness of death doula and getting people ready for that final chapter.
Yeah.
You know, what do you wish that more people knew about green burials and that option that is, at least for me, a relatively new option?
That it's accessible no matter what shade of green you're going to go for. So if you don't live near a countryside memorial or an Eloise Woods or a Compost de Estrella, I'm naming off Texas green burial parks. And this still, maybe you have a plot at an existing cemetery, shades of green, you can still get that wicker basket casket. You cannot be embalmed. You can have your body laid out on ice if you want at your family home. All of these things can happen even though you're still stuck in some of the confines of the way tradition has made it, or cemetery rules. You don't have to have a natural burial forest. We can still do shades of green or anything that's going to align with your personal values and beliefs. The catch in this is the funeral professional you're dealing with. Because if you get somebody that's not going to do their research, that is just into the cookie cutter stuff, and I have worked with these people before. They're all over Texas. I'm sorry. They're all over Washington too. They're everywhere. They are cut and dry kind of thing, or anything that's going to make them money. Please have these conversations ahead of time. Engage with a death doula. Talk to other people who've had experiences, because just like a DIY wedding, you can DIY a funeral and you can make it as green or as toxic as you choose.
I love that. I love that because I think, you know, you mentioned the three C's, and cost can be such a deterrent for people. And I think sometimes they feel stuck in having to pay an exorbitant sum for
Yeah.
a more traditional option.
Mm-hmm.
And that might be a great choice for some people.
Mm-hmm.
But what you're saying and what I'm hearing you say is that there are options. You don't have to feel stuck in that particular price bracket.
Yep.
That's
So
amazing.
do your research on your funeral pro. If like in Texas, they're not required by law, but by golly, they make things a lot easier when it comes to paperwork. So
Yeah, and I love that you advocated using a death doula for this. This is where a death doula can really help. They can
they
help you do the
shine.
research. Yeah, this is
And yep,
we've been waiting for this opportunity to do
yep.
that research, to make those connections, to like get the information in front of the person who needs to make it, so that the
Mm-hmm.
person can just focus on being a daughter or a spouse or a child, and not have to
Mm-hmm.
worry about all of that as well.
Yep. Put it
Oh,
on
that's
that
so good.
doula.
Put it on the doula. As you do this work, as you're an advocate for your clients, have you also seen a change in your relationship with your own mortality?
I still avoid it. No,
Still don't want to die right now. Thanks.
I don't want to go. Mm, I don't know that I have. I always growing up just thought whatever was going to happen is going to happen. I figured it'd be a traditional cemetery, but I know now that I'm going to be green buried. Like, wrap me in a blankie and put me in a hole. The end.
Nice and simple. I love that.
Yeah.
And the image that that evokes, I think, is really poetic. And it comes back to like our whole idea of how the contemplative arts and a different way of looking at things can really help you get what you want at
Mm-hmm.
the end of your life. And I think
Yep.
it's important to have these conversations so that you actually have a say in that decision,
So much so.
right? Well, oh my gosh, Melissa, I could talk to you forever. I always like to know, as you do this work, as you are a multi hyphenate and have a huge social media presence, appear on podcasts like this one, how do you keep yourself sane? How do you fill your cup?
I was going to say medication. No,
Medication. That's always good.
I go to therapy regularly. That is something that I have incorporated into my life in the last 3 years with some of the experiences that I've had in death care. But beyond that, I spend time with Kermit. We go down to the beach, just like last night. We're so fortunate to be a block and a half away from the beach. We will not get to live here forever. So we take advantage of that. Take the flip flops off and put my bare feet in the water and the sand.
Mhm. Yeah.
So nature fills my cup, and so does that dog.
Oh, I can imagine. He's a therapy dog for you too.
Yeah.
Oh, what a
He does
sweetheart.
complain about overtime, though. We
Oh,
have
yeah.
to work that out with treats,
Yeah,
but
I was going to
he's
say,
still great.
yeah, there's got to be a budget there for extra treats for such a good boy.
Totally.
How can people find you online if they want to learn more about you and your work?
TheModernMortician.com. You can find me on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook now, if you want to have those long chatty conversations, because I am doing deep breathing and I am replying to everybody. So yeah, I'm really easy to find online, and I will engage with anyone. You have a question, let me know. I'm still very deep into culture and options in Texas because I'm a Texan at heart. So born and raised in Lubbock, Texas.
Yeehaw.
So I want to help my fellow Texans get these options and not be taken advantage of. So please reach out to me any way that you need to.
You bring up an interesting point because this is something that, I'm a Gen Xer. So okay, good. I don't know the TikTok as much as I would like to know the TikTok, but there's a lot of great information on there. Sounds like you're a big part of that, where people are having these conversations, these really amazing conversations about death and dying and grief on TikTok.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
It's been really nice seeing the new faces that have emerged over the last 2 years. The content that is available. Now, we do have to fight a lot of marketing and misinformation. So there is still a lot of that. But believe me, if there's misinformation to let you know about, I will post about it.
We can count on you to set the record straight.
Yeah, you got
Oh
it.
my gosh. Well, my final question that I ask all of our guests, Melissa, what do you want to do before you go?
I want to help shift the death care paradigm and open my own natural burial park where I can live and eventually just be buried in the backyard. But I imagine a communal space, like an intentional community where children camp and there's goats, and a natural burial preserve where people and pets can just return to the earth together and provide something moving forward. I've finished my first goal, which was get people excited about green burial on social media. Like, I can say that is a huge accomplishment because if you ask ChatGPT who I am, it knows. So, but
Yay.
that's the next thing. I just want to continue to shake it up.
I love it. We'll be watching.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much, Melissa. It's just been a treat to get to know you and to chat with you today.
I appreciate you, Natalie, so much.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Before You Go, the official podcast of Abode Contemplative Care for the Dying. At Abode, we believe death is not a medical event, and we are not medical professionals. We're just sharing our opinions, and these opinions shouldn't be taken as medical advice. You can find us online on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. This episode was edited by Make Your Day Richer.